Hi, I'm Joe McNally. I'm a freelance photographer, and I've been doing it for quite some time as a freelancer. What got me into the industry? You know, I picked up a camera, basically. I knew I always wanted to be a journalist and tell stories. I was in school to be a writer, and in the course of that curriculum, I took a photography class and then decided to take a right turn into photography because the camera just felt natural in my hands. It's hard to really designate a single memorable shot in a career that's spanned 40 years. I think as a project or something significant for me, a turning point was my first cover story for the National Geographic. It ran as a cover and 42 pages in the magazine, and it was kind of at the end of it you felt like you had really done a complete job and been afforded the opportunity to do a really complete job, and that was very satisfying as a photographer. A particular niche is actually not something I'm all that familiar with because I'm a generalist. I don't have a niche per se. I mean, some folks might look and say, oh yeah, he does the lighting thing, and that could be considered a niche, I guess. Kind of a people photographer, portrait photographer. Lighting spins around that, whether it's speed lights or big flash. I've done a lot of feature work for magazines and corporations and a variety of commercial work. It's, if I have a niche, I guess it would just be people photography. I don't particularly do landscape or still life. That's not a specialty at all. I stick in the realm of people because I'm essentially very curious about who people are and what they do. We have all taken this step forward right into mirrorless cameras. Nikon has been my system for many years, and they've just, made that leap with the Z cameras, the Z7 and Z6, and I'm loving them, to be honest. I was a little hesitant at first because I've always been used to the bigger form factor of a DSLR, but I find that I embrace these cameras. The amount of information, the amount of technology is continuing to enlarge my imagination and make my job easier. So as far as I'm concerned, mirrorless is very cool. It's a new wrinkle, and it'll definitely be in my camera bag. Interesting question. What do I think about the way stock photography is changing? I don't think very well of it at all, to be honest, because stock photography for many reasons and for many years now has largely been a race to the bottom. And photographers who are relying on stock have a tougher path at this point, I think, than they have had in previous years. I've never been a particularly major player in terms of stock sales and stock photography, but I do know that what we do is down significantly relative to the amount of money that a per image kind of sale will acquire for you. There's lots of pictures out there, and when there's a huge amount of supply in any marketplace, prices tend to go down, and that's certainly what we've seen in stock photography. Tools we use for post-production are very standard across the board. We don't use Lightroom, but we do use Photoshop. Our workflow involves PhotoShelter, as a storage, as a cloud storage, and I organize a lot of folders on it. Now, of course, we have a Synology RAID in our studio. Right now we have about, I think it's 35 terabytes of storage in our studio. We're enlarging that. We're getting a duplicate Synology RAID with Seagate drives. That's kind of our hub, our physical representation of our archive. We have PhotoShelter up in the cloud, organizing, and also, with our website design, that's a big factor for us. So we employ different entities, that specialize in workflow and storage in our studio. Those are the main players. We also use Photomechanic as a quick sort of selection kind of browser. But our workflow is really pretty straightforward. We select, we continue to kind of boil it down to the basics, get down to our final selects as raw files, def files, and then we launch into Photoshop. What do I think about the current technology, camera-wise, is fantastic. As far as making the leap from an amateur to a pro, yes, the technology, I think, can facilitate that. But the cautionary thing I would offer up is that While the cameras are extremely adept nowadays, the essence of being a professional photographer is still, involving hard lessons to learn. Training, observance, research, drive, curiosity, stamina. All those things have to combine into the personality and physicality of a professional photographer. If you buy a fancy camera and it does all sorts of things for you, by all means have fun with it, but in terms of migrating to the professional ranks and really calling yourself a professional level photographer, there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of things that have to happen beyond the simple acquisition of a technology-driven machine. Of different types of exhibitions. I had a personal retrospective a few years ago at the Monroe Gallery. That was wonderful. The Monroe Gallery is a very prestigious gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and theoretically it was my best work on the walls. So for me personally, that was really enjoyable and kind of a landmark, which matters to no one else, but it was very cool to see the labors of all those years on those walls. In terms of significance, I used the world's only giant Polaroid camera immediately after the tragedy of 9/11 to document first responders and people intensively involved in the events of that day. And that became a traveling exhibit and a show, and it helped raise some money for the relief efforts that occurred after 9/11. That was something that we felt good about, that we felt as a studio, as a photographer, we were able to make a contribution. An assistant for me is a very natural and needed thing to do, because I oftentimes get jobs that have a certain level of complexity, travel, gear, etc. So having that extra pair of hands is not just a luxury, it's essential. Sometimes, depending on the size of the job, we migrate to 2 and 3 assistants and we get a bigger crew. But generally speaking, when I'm traveling with gear, and it's not a quote-unquote simple thing to do, I'm traveling with an assistant, and it's enormously helpful. The best trip of my career is hard to designate, because I've done, on average 150 to 250,000 miles a year in the air. And so finding one trip in the middle of all of those miles is a little bit hard to do. I've been fascinated by many places. I've had wonderful experiences all across the globe. I've been to 70 countries. And I can say this, I still am curious about people, who they are and what they do, and I feel very enriched by the process of travel. It's an education, it's a wonderful side benefit, you could call it, of being a photographer, the fact that you engage the world and engage with people all over the world. It's a wonderful thing. Advice to young photographers or budding photographers is to accept the fact that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Accept the fact that this is involved with lots and lots of hard work. Do a lot of research. Identify what your passions are. Do a lot of reading. Be able to write well so you can construct proposals that will entice people to fund your photography and put you in the field with a camera. All those things are kind of background things to the actual act of going click in the shutter. My opinion on social media is that it can be time consuming, it can be occasionally vexatious, but I think if you're in the photography marketplace, it's probably an essential thing to engage in. We have had a lot of attention and the wisp of assignments come to us via social media. We haven't really turned that corner yet in terms of getting a campaign out of Instagram, though we've come close. And so we stay in there and we continue to use social media so the studio itself can have a voice in the marketplace. Well, if I was to start my career now, I would certainly have to pay attention to video, for sure. It's becoming an increasingly video-driven world, so we are now doing video at our studio on a regular basis. And I would say that as a young photographer heading into the field of visual communications, absolutely video should be in your repertoire of skills. Cameras I own currently, I have D5s, D850s, I have D500s. Those are my DSLR cameras. I have Z6 and Z7 cameras as well. I have a variety of lenses. In terms of favorite lens, that's maybe a little bit of a misnomer. My most used lens is a 24-70. In that range, that is a kind of an ideal set of millimeters that are very useful in the field. The files I shoot on location are a combination file. I shoot RAW and a JPEG Fine. JPEG Fine is for speed of edit, RAW is for archive. I don't shoot sports on a regular basis. I did the Rio Olympics for Sports Illustrated. I have done sports personalities over the years. ESPN is still a client. And the most recent sort of hardcore sports thing I shot was the Monster Truck Finals in Las Vegas last year. It's not a steady diet of sports photography, but I still do enjoy the intersection I can make occasionally with the world of sports. Camera bags, we kind of have a variety of camera bags. Tough to say one particular brand. I use the Manfrotto bags a great deal. I also have Think Tank, and we have some lightware for some of the longer stuff. It's a mix of things. We use whatever seems to be handy to transport our gear. Favorite celebrity, bar none, is Tony Bennett. Good relationship with Tony. He's a very decent, classy, talented man. I've photographed him a number of times, and he's always been a gem. My favorite speedlight accessory is, just happens to be right here. This is a Speedlight 2 box. This one has a grid. It also has a diffuser front. It's small, light, fast, stuffs in your camera bag, gives you a really nice quality of light. I'm really happy that the Last Light folks and I were able to collaborate on the design of this. It's really a nice, small light source. I use reflectors all the time. Block light, bounce light, this and that. They are, blunt instruments, relatively speaking, compared to the precision you can get from a softbox, a grid, cutters, and this and that. But they are, I think, an essential tool. We always go out with tri-flip accessories, which is also a Last Light product. And now they've introduced this new thing called the Halo, which is either a diffuser or a reflector, and finding that to be quite handy because it gets very compact when you store it.